And I think we will see, we already see that there are quite a lot of cities in the world who are open to pushing the regulation to allow the development of this type of transport. So I think by 2025, this type of concept will be operating in a number of cities around the world, and then I think if it demonstrates the success that we think, then it will be adopted very quickly by other cities. I think it'll be a very long time before we run into major traffic jams in the sky. You know, even if you imagine, clearly we need to build an infrastructure. We need to build a means of controlling these vehicles flying above the cities. Is it with virtual streets? Is it some more open network? If you have vehicles which are really connected and artificial intelligence and machine learning involved, maybe all these vehicles can circulate in a city like we do in a square, in an open space. They can find their own way through the airspace without there having to be a rigid structure of streets that they can follow. So I don't believe that the congestion is going to be a problem in the skies, at least in the foreseeable future. Maybe innovation is going to take us a long way. We can think of lots of things that can come in the future. So innovation is going to be a lot about integration. It's going to be about how we integrate the knowledge of different communities, of different companies in the process of creating new products. So for a couple of years now, Airbus and Italdesign have been working together. We're two very different companies. Italdesign is a small company of 1,000 people. Airbus is a huge company of more than 100,000 people. But working together, we found that we can come up with some really interesting concepts. If we look at the city of today, all we're using today, we're mainly using the ground, and in some cities, the underground. If Elon Musk has his way, we'll be using more of the underground of cities. And if we have our way, if we achieve what we expect, we'll also be using the city sky. So the mobility in a city will become really three-dimensional. There'll be underground networks, there'll be ground networks, and there'll be networks in the sky. There's plenty of space in the sky in a city. It's relatively uncluttered. And it's relatively easy to use. So we came up 2 years ago with a concept which we called Pop-Up, which was a modular vehicle which consists of three components: a ground module, if you like, a self-driving car, a capsule that you perform that holds the passengers, and an air module which turns this vehicle into a flying car. People have been dreaming of flying cars since the beginning of at least of this century. But we're coming now very close to this being a reality with the technology that exists today. The technology is really converging in a lot of areas: batteries, motors, electrical technology, materials, and so on, that actually makes this not just a dream, but a reality. So at the end of this year, in 6 months' time, we will fly a non-modular version of this type of vehicle, which we call City Airbus, which is a 2-ton air taxi, which will be able to ferry people around cities. So if you want to go further, you can see some videos about this on the internet, on YouTube, of what we imagine this bringing. These technologies open up a whole new space which is not available today. We have helicopters, yes, but helicopters are noisy. Helicopters are extremely expensive to operate, and all of these subjects can be addressed with the technology that exists today. And for some journeys, we actually believe that operating this type of vehicle can be at least the same cost, or perhaps even lower than ground transport. So if you take the example of, you probably all have the frustration of taking a journey from the city centre to the airport. In London, for example, this can take you easily an hour and a half at peak times. It would be 12 minutes in one of these vehicles. So even though these vehicles will always be more expensive to operate than an autonomous car, they'll use more energy than an autonomous car. But if the energy is generated renewable and essentially free, do we really care how much energy we use if it's coming from solar? And if we can do these journeys in 12 minutes instead of 1.5 hours on the ground, even the price will be competitive with a ground journey. So we imagine a vehicle which is really personalized. It's highly connected. It's portable. It's able to be. We can imagine using this on all sorts of means of transport: air, ground, maybe even hyperloops, underground. There are lots of possibilities, and it gives us the opportunity to expand the transport networks that exist within the cities. Requires some new infrastructure, but not really so much. If you fly over a city from the air today, you can easily find all the places where you need to land these type of vehicles. Some cities are already pre-equipped. Los Angeles, for example, already has more than 100 helipads in the city. One of them is used commercially. So we see a real change coming here with creative destruction. What we have today is falling apart. The structure, the transport infrastructure we have in cities today is falling apart. I don't think any of us really know what the future will bring. We have to use our intuition to imagine what the future can bring, and imagine the way we want our cities of the future to look like. Thanks.